Welcome back to the AM show. It's time now for us to discuss the newly launched modified taxation scheme aimed at the informal sector, which started on July the 1st. We want to understand what the scheme is, why it's important, and everything in between, from filing, registration, payments, flexibility, and all. So to help us do that, we have in studio Lawrence Hochonyame. He's Assistant Commissioner and Head of DTRD, that is Domestic Tax Revenue Division, Technical Training Unit, and he's also a lawyer. We also have Mr. Victor Akogo. He's Chief Revenue Officer and Project Lead for the Modified Taxation Project at GRA. Welcome aboard, gentlemen. Of course, Kojo and I are here to steer the conversations.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. But I mean, Hochonyame. Maybe we should have made Hochonyame. What does it mean?
It means that money answers everything.
I love the other one.
Money stops nonsense.
Yeah, money stops nonsense, doesn't it?
Anyway.
All right.
Let's start from here.
Yeah, I want to understand what this modified taxation scheme really is. So let's start with a brief background on what it is and how it came to be.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. I think that our law requires that any person who earns income in Ghana should pay tax on that income. And the tax law classifies income into three categories. We have what we call the business income, we have investment income, and we have employment income, right? So once you earn any of these three classes of income, the law requires you that you pay taxes on that income. And that is why employment income, business income, and investment income. And so all of you here working for Joy FM in an employment capacity, every month your employers deduct and pay PAYE on your behalf, and that is income on your employment. If you do business, you also pay what we call business income. If you earn investment income in the form of rents, royalties, dividends, natural resource payment, you also pay taxes on investment income. And so this modified taxation specifically relates to business income for individuals. Business income for individuals. What it sought to cure is that, before the implementation of modified taxation, all taxpayers are put together under one tax law, the Income Tax Act, now Section 1(5) of the Act, and then the second schedule of the Act now narrows it down to business income of individuals. And we have come to realize that the complexity that goes with the taxation of entities and the complexity that goes with taxation of companies and another body of persons, we cannot extend the same complexities to individuals. And so the modified taxation basically is a system to simplify the tax payments and processes for individuals conducting business. It does not apply to employment income of individuals or investment income of individuals. It only applies to individual conducting business, micro businesses, small and medium businesses. Basically to simplify the processes of registration, simplify the processes of filing returns, simplify the processes of payments, and then complying with the requirements of the law. So basically it's a simplified method of assessing business income of individuals operating in the informal economy.
So it's not a new tax?
Not at all. It's not a new tax.
So when you say simplified, really, how simplified is the simplified that you're talking about?
The general rule that applies to all businesses is what we call the standard rule. The standard rule applies, let me just explain the standard rule. For you as an entity, let's say Joy as an entity, we look at your assessable income or your gross income for the year. Then we take out all allowable deductions or all your expenses for the year. Then we arrive at your chargeable income, and then we tax your chargeable income. So it goes through a process. We determine first your gross income, which we call the assessable income. We allow you all the expenses. We arrive at the chargeable income, and we tax. This category of taxpayers we are referring to may not follow the standard rule. In actual fact, the law will permit them to determine their taxes based on certain criteria, and that criteria may not necessarily follow the standard rule. And one of such criteria is the turnover. The turnover of that class of individuals. And once you're able to determine your turnover, we'll put you into the category that you belong to. And then we just calculate your taxes on a very simplified method.
Okay.
And then that becomes it. So it extends to cover the registration of the taxpayer, the payment procedures of the taxpayer, and then the filing procedures. So we have designed a completely different form for filing their returns. And all we needed in that form is what? Declaration of their turnover.
I know some people do self-assessment.
Yeah.
And you have a window for them to do that. If the person has done self-assessment, where does he or she place in this new thing you're rolling out?
Yeah. Self-assessment is one of the types of assessment where the taxpayer is allowed to assess himself. Basically, what we are going to do under the modified taxation is not going to be different from the self-assessment. It's going to be taxpayer's own declaration. The taxpayer will have to tell us his or her turnover for the year. And based on that turnover, we can now decide which category we place you in. There are 3 categories. I think my brother is going to throw more light on the various categories.
Yeah.
But once we are able to identify your turnover, it will help us to be able to place you either under category 1, category 2, or category 3. Okay. And then we apply the rules to you.
Okay. So, Mr. Gogo, yes.
You are Chief Revenue Officer and Project Lead for this modified taxation. So maybe walk us through the 3 categories and what challenges each of these categories seek to solve.
Okay. Thank you very much. I want to say that the informal sector, represents a significant portion of the Ghana's economy. And it's a vital area for revenue generation, and it has a huge revenue potential. And the GRA has deemed it fit to be able to introduce modified taxation for this category of taxpayers. And we are saying that because they lack the knowledge of record keeping, and their transactions are more cash dominated, and their itinerary, they move from places to places, there is the need for us to bring this modified taxation to them. And this modified taxation has brought 3 categories to the informal sector. The first category is that we have presumptive tax based on installment. The presumptive tax based on installment is taxpayers in the informal sector who are made to pay fixed amount as tax as defined in the law. And the fixed amount is based on their turnover. So if you have a turnover ranging from 0 to 5,880 Ghana cedis, you don't pay tax at all. Then the turnover moves from 5,880 to 10,000 Ghana cedis. You pay 25 Ghana cedis as tax, that's fixed amount for a quarter.
Okay.
Then if your turnover, the sales you make a day, for the year is from 10,000 to 15,000 Ghana cedis for the whole year, then you pay 35 Ghana cedis a quarter. Then if the sales is from 15,000 to 20,000 Ghana cedis, then you pay 45 Ghana cedis a quarter. That is the first category. The second category is what we call the presumptive tax based on turnover. This category of taxpayers, one, they are paying a 3% flat rate on their turnover. Okay. So their turnover must range from or must be more than 20,000 Ghana cedis, but not exceeding 500,000 Ghana cedis. You pay 3% of it, and that becomes the tax that you have to pay for the year. Okay. And that is the simplified method we are introducing. And the third category is the modified cash basis. And here we are saying that your turnover must also range from 20,000, but not exceeding 500,000. But here you are allowed a minimum allowable deductions as, that is expenses that you have incurred. You take it out from the turnover before the tax is applied on it. So basically, these are the 3 distinctions that we have brought.
With the presumptive, Yes. You don't do, there's no allowable deductions.
Very good. It is straightforward based on your turnover.
Okay.
3% of your turnover. Those doing business online, those doing business, earning business income, the law expects them to register with Ghana Revenue Authority. Yeah. And as the Constitution, Article 41J, keep on saying that we have the duties of the citizen. And the citizens must disclose their income honestly before the appropriate authorities and pay the taxes thereof.
But if you look at the presumptive-based and the modified, what are the differences? Because apart from the 3%, the annual turnover is almost the same, 20,000, less than 500,000. So what's the difference?
Yeah, so basically the law allows some categories of people, the law specifies that some categories of individuals cannot opt for the presumptive tax based on turnover.
Okay.
So for example, if you're an individual and you are a professional, either you are practicing as a professional lawyer or a professional accountant or a consultant or an architect, and you are operating as an individual, you cannot, even though the turnover is the same, you fall under the modified cash.
Okay.
You fall under the modified cash, which uses the standard rule the project lead has just explained.
Okay.
If your profit to turnover ratio is high, there are some businesses that has a high profit to turnover ratio, you fall under the third category, that is the modified cash.
Okay.
If you have one business but several outlets, we know people who are operating just one business, but they have outlets all over the country, you come under the modified cash, which uses the standard rule.
Okay.
Then if you have many businesses, you are an individual, but you have several businesses, you also come under the modified cash.
But what if then that those persons, their turnover is over 500,000 cedis?
Yes. So that is very, very good question. So right now we've indicated a turnover. The 0 to 20,000 will be the presumptive tax based on installment. Exceeding 20,000 and not more than 500,000 is presumptive tax based on turnover and then modified cash, right? All these three categories, the law says that we should treat them in a very flexible manner. So we are treating you in a manner that is so flexible. Even when we are calculating your allowable deductions, the law says we should disregard some of the provisions of the tax law.
Okay.
So it means that we are not going to apply the tax rules very strictly to this.
You will be too stringent with them. Okay.
So these three categories of people. But once your annual turnover falls outside the scope of modified taxation, in other words, your annual turnover is more than 500,000, 600,000, 1 million, 2 million, 10 million, and so on, then you fall under the general rule. It falls under the general rule. So now the income tax law will now be applicable to you.
Okay.
Is this a year-on-year basis? Because some people, and I realize that the professionals you listed, you didn't account for creatives. In this gig economy, creatives, especially comedians, I've personally experienced GRA officers coming on stage, during a stand-up comedy to ask them to pay tax. First of all, where do they fall? And does it mean that if your annual turnover maybe for this year exceeds 500,000 and the next year it doesn't, you'll be treated the same way, or it's based on the year-on-year basis?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Mr. Akobo, right? Yeah, because the creatives are the ones moving and the economy now.
You see, the law is clear that anyone who earns income ought to register and pay tax. And taxes are paid on annual basis. So we assess you annually and you are made to pay the taxes quarterly. If you are paying the taxes quarterly, we can also accept monthly payment of the tax. So if you are a comedian, then it means that you are providing a service for people to enjoy. So you need to register with the Ghana Revenue Authority. So if you don't register and you go on stage to perform, then the GRA people will come for you because you are trying to conceal income or evade tax. And part of the mandate of the GRA is to combat tax evasion. So basically, comedian service providers whose turnover are more than 500,000 Ghana cedis must pay tax using the standard method, where they must estimate their tax for the Commissioner General to know that from the beginning of the year, they are going to perform this show, and this is the likely amount.
But that's a challenge, isn't it, Mr. Kogo? Because you cannot tell who will book you for an event and who wouldn't.
Yes.
I know some of them go 3-4 months without a gig, and then they'll get a gig the next month, and it's much more than they would earn in those 4 months combined.
Yes, so it is your profession. It is your profession. So definitely, since it's your profession, it means that you live on it. You make living out of that. So you don't pray that nobody calls you. So you anticipate that within the year, you are likely to earn this income. It's an estimate that you are making to the Commissioner.
So it means that when you estimate at the end of the year,
yes, you file an annual return.
if you don't achieve
then you tell us. You tell us that, okay, we didn't achieve.
Okay. So you do your estimate like any other self-assessed taxpayer. You submit your annual estimate. The law allows you to make a revision to the estimate. So the declaration of income is not fixed. If you do not earn income, you do not pay taxes.
Okay.
So taxes, income taxes specifically, is tied to whether or not you've earned an income.
Or not. But her question were in twofold.
Yeah.
What then happens that maybe this year I achieved a turnover of, say, 200,000. But next year, or last year I achieved 200,000. But this year, I'm probably going to achieve around 120,000. What happens?
Yeah, so, if you study the law, the law allows anybody to decide to, so these are the modified taxation system we are approaching, 3 categories.
Yeah.
The law says you may elect to disapply category 1 and category 2. You may elect.
Okay.
So the category 1, which is the presumptive tax based on installment, and then presumptive tax based on turnover, you can decide that, look, I'm coming, you may elect to come under modified cash. And once you exercise that election, the law says you must remain there for the next 5 years.
Oh.
Once you exercise that election, that you have decided not to apply the first 2 categories, you are coming under category 3, irrespective of your level of turnover, whether it still remain in that range or that the law says you must remain there for the next 5 years.
Okay.
Is that fair to, is that fair?
No. So in the mind of the framers of the law, it's to prevent people from moving in and out, and moving out of one category or the other.
Yeah.
Other than that, if you just open it out, this year you opt out,
and then
the following year you come under modified taxation.
To be fair, I think that as a business person, I think this is fair.
Yeah.
This is fair.
I think so. Is when you elect to supply, you just remain there for 5 years, and then the Commissioner General can consider bring you back under modified taxation.
So, on this, do you have systems or people who can assist with the assessment? In case these creatives, musicians, do not know exactly how to go about it, do you have personnel who assist?
So let's not limit the discussion to those in the creative industry.
No,
only.
Okay.
So this business or this discussion we're having applies to every player in the informal sector, the retail business, the butchers, the seamstresses, the hairdressers, everybody, every trader, micro. I get it. So it's not just about those in the creative.
So you
industry.
do have people who can assist them.
Oh yes, yes. Right. GRA is well prepared with personnel and systems to roll out the modified taxation system. We certainly going to partner with the onboarding. So our officers will be on the field with a device to do the onboarding.
Okay.
So all we need is your Ghana card number, your GPS location, where that business GPS location of the business, and then if you have your telephone number, and if you have a registration document, if it applies to you, fine. If you do not have registration document, that's okay with us, and then we'll onboard you there and there.
Okay.
That's all we need. If you have information about your turnover, you give it to us. If you do not have information about your turnover, we'll proceed to register you.
Okay. What happens to people who have self-assessed at the beginning of the year and have indicated how much they think they would earn at the end of the year? Are they also to be captured under this, or this is forward-looking, as we say, laws?
Like I indicated earlier, this modified taxation regime is following the same regime as self-assessment.
Okay, so if
when you make an estimate, will allow you to make that estimate to apply to you. If you have any revision to make to the estimate, the law still permits you to do a revision, and then at the end of the year, you submit your annual.
Okay. So if I've done that at the end of the year, at the beginning of the year, this does not concern me.
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, but on the other hand, too, if you don't estimate a tax that you have to pay for the year, the Commissioner General will estimate a tax for you.
For you, yes. Yeah. Yes.
Because you are in business and you are earning income.
Yes.
And you must pay taxes. It's very, very important. As a citizen of Ghana, you are responsible for the development of your own country. Absolutely. Now that loans from outside are being curtailed, we are not getting the aids, the loans. There is the need for us all to come together as a team, as a family, as citizens of Ghana, and try as much as possible to contribute our quota towards the development of this country. And the taxes, modified taxation, has been made flexible. We are saying that if you are on tabletop, your turnover up to 20,000 Ghana cedis, pay 45 Ghana cedis a quarter, which is 15 Ghana cedis a month. That is basically, it has been in our law for as far back as 2012.
Oh, okay.
It has not been reviewed. It's the same amount. There are people who have also bought vehicles and they are using it for commercial purposes. They are also to pay tax. And for taxes, they are paying 12 Ghana cedis a quarter. This rate amount or fixed amount has been in the books as far back as 2015, and we have not reviewed it upwards. But now we are giving the opportunity to all those who in that, space to register and pay the taxes that is due them.
Okay.
If you pay taxes, you see that you sleep well and you don't dream about it.
Only if that person will see that, okay, this one was done with my taxes.
Yes,
that's what's sleeping well.
Yeah, it's always value
for
for
the taxes,
money.
you have the police people who are protecting you. How do we pay them? It is from your taxes.
Yeah, but
you have the nurses and the doctors.
On a very poor road,
If you are driving on the road, because the monies that we are getting as taxes are not enough, we are not being able to fix every country. And we are doing it on face-by-face approach. Okay. So let us all contribute so that at least our roads will be better, our hospital will be good, our schools will be good, our children will get free, SHS, good food to eat. We all love our country, and therefore we want to support the country to grow. And it grows by getting more revenue for the development.
So I agree with you, but we can't fund all our developmental projects through taxes.
That is true.
Of course, we should also look at how the country can generate other means of resources than taxing. Let's talk about the mode of payment. How do you pay these taxes? I know the GRA has this new software or system where you don't have to go to the GRA offices to pay these taxes. Does it apply here as well? Do we have USSD?
Yes, so when it comes to tax payment, the government cashier is the Ghana.gov.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So Ghana.gov has been able to assist us with a short code. Okay. *22# hash. Okay. *222# hash. And *880# hash for verification. So if you want to pay your tax, you dial *222# hash. You go to select 3 GRA and you select domestic tax payment. Okay. Then if you select it, then you generate a tax bill. But this category of taxpayers, we are taking off the generation of tax bill from there. Then they will go straight and pay their taxes. So we are doing, testing of the system to officially bring it on board. If you want to verify, to see whether you are compliant with your tax payment, you can also dial short code *880#. If you dial it, it will tell you, being compliant, select 1. You select it, then it asks you to key in your Ghana card. After keying in your Ghana card, it will determine your status for you, whether you are tax compliant or not tax compliant. If you even have a tax clearance certificate showing that you are compliant, then your tax position is also indicated for you. Okay. To be compliant means that you have the ability and you have the willingness to file your tax return or make a declaration and pay the taxes that you are due, or make arrangement to pay the taxes. So basically, these are the short codes that we have put in place for the payment of taxes.
Okay. It has started, right?
Yes, it has. It has started, but the rollout is a process.
Okay.
Right. Now we're doing media engagement and all that. Our offices are open, that anybody that needs any assistance can visit our offices and onboard.
The reason I asked was for our mothers in the market.
Yeah.
I realized that they are also captured under this, right?
Yes.
Now, they need to be taken through a certain process. So, are they part of this media engagement you're doing, or there's a specialized sensitization that is happening in our markets?
We're going to have media engagement with all stakeholders, including GUTA, our Market Women Association, all of them. We're going to have an engagement with them and explain the processes and the registration processes, the onboarding processes. We're going to have that interaction with all of them, like we have started with your platform. Okay. Your media platform is a big one. Yeah. So this is to send a message across that we rolling out the modified taxation system for players in the informal economy. Taxation in the informal economy has become very complex, not only within our country, but globally. I mean, it's a challenge trying to rope in taxpayers from the informal economy. But the system that we are implementing now would be a process to onboard as many informal sectors. There has been concern that our tax base has been too narrow, that we focus only on few persons or individuals to contribute to our national revenue. Yes, to some extent we agree, and we think that this is an opportunity to bring on board players in the informal economy, all players. So it's going to be an aggressive approach. We're going to move out there and register as many individuals as possible. Depending on which category you belong to, we just place you there and then we determine your liabilities.
Sounds like
very simplified approach.
Yeah, but it sounds like voluminous work to engage all the relevant stakeholders, and the rollout started yesterday. Yes. Prior to that, were you doing these engagements?
Yes, the Commissioner General is really, really committed. The Commissioner General, Mr. Anthony Akwesi Sapon, is absolutely committed in rolling out this modified taxation program. It has, like my brother has said, this whole system has been in our books for some time with the passage of Act 896. That was 1st January 2016. This modified taxation has been on our books but he's taking the bold challenge to roll it out. And rolling it out means that, look, let's make the payments, the filing processes very, very, very seamless and simplified for all categories of taxpayers, including individuals playing in this sector. So moving forward, we'll even be going to do what we call group registration. So, for example, Hairdressers Association will get all of them and do a bulk.
Were they paying taxes before, especially the market women? Were they paying anything?
Oh, yes, yes. The first category, this is not the first time we're rolling out the first category. Originally, we were calling it tax stamp. So you see our officers on the field and this thing. But at that time, the law did not provide the turnover thresholds. So the turnover threshold were not known. So it was discretionary. It was either large, medium, or small. So people were exercising discretion. Now the law has been very specific on which class of individual should go under category 1. So when your turnover falls below 20,000, we conveniently put you under category 1. That's presumptive taxation based on installment. When your turnover falls above 20,000 but below 500,000, we put you under category 2 and determine your liabilities. As simple as that. And like I indicated earlier, any person who wants to elect to disapply the first or 2 categories have the option to do so. And when you elect to disapply, then you come under the standard rule. And the standard rule, we use the graduated tax rate as we use for all taxpayers. And that is what applies here.
So let's reiterate. I mean, in wrapping up, reiterate the importance of this, and if you can sum up what, significant difference this new modified taxation is compared to what we had previously, Mr. Gogo. You have like 1 minute to do that. You can look into your camera.
Thank you very much. Simplified or modified taxation is a simplified, flexible, convenient, and easy method of assessing individuals who are into business in Ghana and are earning business income. They must pay tax. Everybody must contribute towards the development of the country. So if you earn income, especially from business, there is the need for you to pay tax. Because even in the Bible, Matthew chapter 22, verse 17 to 21 states, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to God what belongs to God. So therefore, everybody who earns business income must contribute. Taxation, although it is voluntary, but if you don't pay, we will enforce it from you and ensure that you pay.
Can all the saints say amen?
Amen.
Mr. Ochonyame, you have the final word.
Now that my brother has gone biblical, let me also add one scripture in Romans 13:7.
Nice.
It said, if you owe taxes, pay taxes. When you owe revenue, pay your revenue. So these things that we are talking are also scriptural. We want to encourage all our taxpayers in the informal economy that the opportunity has come for them to get on board. Like my colleague rightly indicated, very flexible way of assessing taxpayers. When you belong to the first category, you are paying 25 cedis a quarter, or 35 cedis a quarter, or 45 cedis a quarter. The whole year, if you are paying 25 cedis a quarter, it means that the whole year you are paying what? 100
cedis. Yeah.
All right.
I get it.
So that day,
let's get our persons committed to it. We are ready to give you the needed support.
Okay.
The GRA offices for a successful rollout.
Thank you very much, sir, for coming through.
So that is Mr. Lawrence Ochonyame. He's Assistant Commissioner and Head of the DTRD Technical Training Unit at GRA. Of course, we also had Mr. Victor Akogo. He's Chief Revenue Officer and Project Lead for the Modified Taxation Project, also at GRA. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming.